Welcome back to the Athens Roundtable on AI and the Rule of Law. It is the second day of this fourth edition, which, as you know, is focused on AI governance and implementation. My name is Nico Miai, and I'm the founder and the president of the Future Society, the nonprofit AI policy think and do tank, which co-organizes the Athens Roundtable every year, along with Elon Tech, the European Law Observatories on New Technologies. Let me start by thanking our cause and supporting organizations for this fourth edition. The European Parliament, of course, which is hosting us today virtually and yesterday in person, the OECD, UNESCO, the Council of Europe, the Patrick J. McGovern Foundation, the law firm Cravat, AWS, IEEE, the law firm Arnold & Porter, the Jane Family Institute, and finally, the law firm Debevoise and Plimpton. If you allow me, I would also like to salute my dear friend Nicholas Economou, the visionary behind the Athens Roundtable, who could not be with us this year. We really look forward to your return next year. Like yesterday, we have a packed program for you and a great lineup. After focusing on the EU AI Act yesterday, today we're going to take a step back and look at the geostrategic context, as well as discussing some other key AI governance initiatives internationally and in the US. Indeed, we are going to try and deepen the conversation around a few key questions. Number one, what does the trustworthy adoption of AI in conformity with human rights and democratic value mean in practice? Number two, what does the effective enforcement of and compliance with AI laws and regulation look like in practice? Three, what does the implementation of international normative agreements on AI mean in practice? And finally, how do we approach and coordinate better all the efforts around AI measurement and evaluation? Because we know that if we cannot measure it, we won't be able to improve it. And to kick us off, I would like now to invite Mr. Kyriakos Pierakakis, Minister of State and Digital Governance of Greece, to deliver his opening remarks on behalf of the government of Greece. Mr. Pierakakis, welcome. The floor is yours, and thank you very much for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you so much. It's a great joy to be with you on the fourth Athens Roundtable on AI and the rule of law. Lots of thanks to my good friend, the Vice President, Eva Kaili. And needless to say, AI has been one of the cornerstones of our overall digital policy in the last years throughout, I would say, the European Union. But also in the case of Greece, we very much understand that overall digital transition has been one of the core necessities for every member state of the EU, for every country in the world, vis-a-vis how we serve, how we provide digital services to citizens. And if we look at it schematically, from the first industrial revolution to the second, to the third, which was pure digitization, to the fourth, which is in a sense digital together with the physical and the biological, AI is one of the core technologies that will allow this significant transition to the future. Every country, every member state in Europe is trying to achieve both two ends at once. The first one is to resolve the outstanding issues of the past, elements of digital that have not been yet resolved. In the case of Greece, those elements were quite many on every policy area, from pension policy to how we overall serve citizens in a manner which is swift and nimble. This is not something which we had managed to achieve in previous years, but which we have managed to achieve lately. We had overall 9 million digital transactions in 2018, and we're about to have 1 billion digital transactions this year. So overall, this change is exponential. It's a function of the 1,500 digital services which we have managed to create through gov.gr, our digital platform. But this is one part of the policy, as I mentioned. The second part is not to lose the challenges of the future and to actually meet them as quickly as possible, meet them in the present. And the core challenges of AI are not only technological, they're also regulatory and legal. And in this sense, we're discussing, we're debating, we watch with lots of interest all the debates on the Emerging AI Act at the European level, but also what every member state is doing domestically with regards to each member state's domestic legal framework. Greece passed a relevant law on emerging technologies last summer, where, amongst other things, we regulated that all corporations, all private firms that take advantage of AI algorithms on labor decisions should publish such decisions online. or should notify those who are affected by those decisions in a manner which is quite transparent. And this is, I would say, one element over and above the EU-wide AI discussions, which in our view is commensurate with our value system, it's commensurate with our overall approach to digital and to how technology should affect the lives of citizens. Of course, the debate is not only legal, it's also technological, it's essentially technological. And in this regard, what we're trying to do domestically is to advance a full series of technical solutions on every policy area where AI can have a significant impact. In our case, we find that taxation, our health system are two such policy areas which can produce quite significant algorithmic results using AI algorithms to achieve significant know-how, to attain significant know-how. One such case is our overall prescription system, where AI algorithms can play a huge role with regards to notifying and having a sense of who prescribes what and to what extent. Those are examples of everyday problems which can be quite significant. And I think this is what we should be doing overall. This is what our approach should be overall. And by that, I mean that technology is part of the answer, but it's not the answer. The core thing is how to address specific questions, specific societal questions, puzzles, problems which we face and which we haven't managed to resolve, and where AI can be part of the solution, but in a values-based approach, in an approach which is commensurate, as I mentioned, with our overall value system. And in this regard, fora such as this can play a significant role in those debates. Again, it's a great joy to be with you, and I wish you all the best for today's organization.
Thank you, Mr. Kyriakakis. Thank you for being with us. Appreciated your remarks, and thank you for your support. We are now going to hear from Mrs. Marija Buric, the Secretary General of the Council of Europe, to deliver her remarks on behalf of the Council of Europe.
It is a pleasure that the Council of Europe is able to co-host the fourth Athens Roundtable on Artificial Intelligence and the Rule of Law. The rise of artificial intelligence continues apace, with all that it promises for our economies, societies, and individual lives. Equally, this technological transformation brings with it a range of ethical issues. How do we prevent the use of algorithms leading directly or indirectly to discrimination against groups or individuals? How can we use artificial intelligence responsibly and safely in public administration and in the courts of law without putting the rule of law at risk? How can we prevent or assign responsibility for attacks on election systems or technical failures, including, for example, driverless cars? These are serious questions, and it is vital that there is an informed public debate about these issues, so that there is collective agreement about the boundaries that need to be put in place and how this should happen. This Athens Roundtable will make an important contribution to that debate. Certainly, despite the pace of change, there is still a window of opportunity for artificial intelligence to develop in a responsible, human-centered way, so that it upholds human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, and does not undermine them. C'est pourquoi le Comité sur l'intelligence artificielle du Conseil de l'Europe négocie actuellement une convention sur le développement, la conception et l'application de l'intelligence artificielle. Un traité qui sera fondé sur les normes communes de notre organisation et qui garantira à ce que les principes fondamentaux des droits de l'homme et de l'état de droit régissent le développement de cette importante technologie, tout comme il devrait s'appliquer à tous les aspects de la vie sur notre continent. Car si les directives peuvent jouer un rôle important et positif, elles ne peuvent pas fournir la certitude à la protection d'un cadre juridique approprié. Celui-ci ne doit pas nécessairement remplacer la législation nationale. Au contraire, il peut la compléter et lui apporter une valeur ajoutée. Et pas seulement ici en Europe, mais dans le monde entier, afin de créer des conditions de concurrence équitable pour ce secteur et de permettre à ceux qui souhaitent s'y engager de connaître le terrain et de pouvoir s'y fier. Le comité progresse bien. Il a tenu sa deuxième séance plénière au début de l'automne, à laquelle ont participé non seulement nos États membres, mais aussi l'Union européenne et les autorités du Canada, d'Israël, du Japon, du Mexique et des États-Unis. Les négociations devraient se terminer en septembre de l'année prochaine et je n'ai aucun doute que ce qui sera convenu représentera un pas important en avant. Ces progrès seront sans aucun doute alimentés par ce qui sera dit à cette table ronde. Je vous invite donc à saisir cette occasion pour partager vos connaissances et exprimer vos points de vue. Ensemble, nous pouvons assurer à l'intelligence artificielle un avenir solide, fructueux et fondé sur des normes.
Merci, Madame la Secrétaire Générale. Thank you so much, Mrs. Buric. Since I see that Mr. Janasi is also with us, I would like to invite him to give his opening remarks. Mr. Tawfiq Janasi, Additional Director General for Communication and Information at UNESCO. Thank you, Mr. Janasi, for your support, and thank you for being with us this afternoon. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Minister Kyriakos Pyrakakis, Excellencies, Secretary General Maria Buric, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends. I'm delighted to join you this afternoon for this fourth edition of the Athens Roundtable on AI and the Rule of Law. I would like to thank the Vice President Eva Kaili for hosting the European Parliament's Roundtable yesterday. And I must say that UNESCO is proud to have been a partner of the Athens Roundtable since its inception, since its first edition. Every year we ensure that discussions here reach the Spanish and French-speaking parts of the world and our wider community of 24,000 judicial operators all over the world. We have been discussing the development of legal and regulatory frameworks for AI governance and risk assessment. And I would like here to say one of the recent achievements at UNESCO happened exactly a year ago when the 193 member states of UNESCO voted during the General Conference, approved the UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence. We believe this is the first normative instrument worldwide of its kind, because we all know the importance of this emerging technology called AI. We know how to go about development and use, but of course we have to stress very much the human-centered approach that we should follow, and we should make AI-based system open to all, accessible by all, and very much follow a multi-stakeholder approach with ethics at the center of our efforts. So I think this is very important development and contribution of UNESCO to the debate. We know also how, or the need of training both the duty bearers but also rights holders on how AI can impact our lives and what role it can play in protecting our fundamental freedoms and our fundamental rights. Let me say that over the last 10 years, UNESCO has conducted many trainings of judicial operators, judges, public prosecutors, and others, very much on the issue of international standards of freedom of expression, safety of journalists, and more recently, so we have trained 24,000 judicial operators from 150 countries. And more recently, actually last March, we launched our first online course. It's a MOOC, it's a massive open online course on AI and the rule of law. We offered only once online, and we had 4,500 judicial operators from 140 countries who registered and followed this fully this online course. So that's again a contribution. And here I should very much thank our partners, the Future Society, the National Judicial College, the European Commission, and the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE, as well as CETIC.br, which is a Category 2 center of UNESCO based in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Let me reiterate UNESCO commitment to continue working with our partners to take this initiative forward with the development of a global toolkit for judicial operators on the same topic of artificial intelligence and the rule of law. We believe that such toolkit and such development could support institutional capacity building at the national level across the world. Before I close, I want to mention an important global conference that UNESCO is currently preparing. This conference will take place this coming February from the 21st to the 23rd at UNESCO headquarters in Paris. It's a conference called Internet for Trust, Regulating Digital Platforms to Ensure Information is a Public Good. So why we are doing this? We are doing this because we have seen lately a major increase in what we call public hazards or public harm, more specifically conspiracy theories, online harassment of journalists and other professionals, and so on and so forth. So we want really to have all the parties, not only the member states, civil society and academia, but also the technology companies that operate these digital platforms. We want to facilitate a dialogue among all these parties to come up with a global model framework for regulating digital platforms. We hope that such effort, such a global model framework would inspire, would inform national regulators as to the way forward in order, as I said, to ensure information is a public good and not increasingly a public hazard or a public harm, as we have been seeing lately. And the good news that the technology companies are involved in our inclusive multi-stakeholder process to prepare through consultations, regional consultations, thematic consultations to prepare for this important conference. This is for your information, but also this is an open invitation to all of you to engage with us, to contribute to such an important topic, and hopefully to see you also attending this conference, whether in presencia in Paris, February 21st through 23rd of this coming year, or online, since the event will be hybrid. Thank you all. I wish you a successful conference with fruitful discussions on how we can define the rule of law together, and how we can keep human rights and human freedoms at the heart of our work in this digital world. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Jelassi. And I must say it was really a pleasure and honor to work with your team on the MOOC. It's an unprecedented capacity building effort. We need to continue, and I very much look forward to the February conference.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jelassi. We are now going to move to our next opening remark. I would like to welcome on stage Mr. Anthony Gooch, Director for Communication and Public Affairs, and also the Chair of the OECD Parliamentary Network, to deliver his opening remarks on behalf of the OECD. Mr. Gooch, the floor is yours. We are really delighted to have you with us this afternoon.
So much indeed. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. I would like to thank you, Eva Kaili, and all of the team organizing this event for involving us. The OECD is proud to be a partner of this undertaking, and me to be able to join you on this second day to participate in a very influential event to advance and widen the global dialogue on artificial intelligence and the rule of law. Artificial intelligence is progressing to compete with the best of the human brain, bringing a lot of promise. When listening to music, booking a trip, or looking for a product online, algorithms are defining the path of our digital realities. However, we know that there are a number of risks involved with it as well. And I remember the words of my fellow opening panelists, who I salute Minister Kyriakos, when he said at one of our virtual OECD Forum events last year, technology by itself is neutral, but the way it is deployed is not. The role of governments and the OECD is to limit the negative impacts while furthering the positive impacts. And I don't think I could have put it any better. It's simple and it's right to the point. AI systems can operate with a high level of autonomy, deciding how to achieve a certain goal in a way which has not been explicitly programmed or even contemplated, and that raises secondary issues and externalities. And the question is, who is legally responsible for the outcome? All stakeholders must be aligned to ensure that AI systems have the necessary checks and balances. And in 2019, the OECD produced the first set of principles on AI, signed up to by governments around the world. And the three of these clearly fall under the rubric of the rule of law, namely human-centered values and fairness, transparency and explainability, and accountability. And they set standards for AI that are practical and flexible enough to stand the test of time. The OECD principles were very much inspired by the work that the EU has been doing, and I know that the event physically this year is being hosted in Brussels, and so I wanted to mention the very important, very close cooperation with the European Union, the European Commission, and of course I'm going to talk a little bit about our work together with the European Parliament. And in this discussion, it's essential to mention the EU AI Act, which is right now occupying minds in Brussels and indeed across the world, and its focus on risk. We see that AI risks are materializing into incidents, and learning from evidence will allow us to treat and mitigate these risks and inform policy. But to be able to do so, we need global consistency and interoperability in the reporting of incidents. That is to say, when things don't go quite right, to learn from those situations, rather than just recoil and say, okay, we should do nothing further. So it's for this reason the OECD is working on a common framework for incident reporting on artificial intelligence and an AI incidents monitor. And I encourage you to listen to the panel that will take place later today, in which my colleague Karine Perset, who's the head of our AI unit in the Digital Economic Policy division, and she'll be talking about operationalizing international agreements on AI. Now, the AI Act that's in discussions at the moment in Brussels proposes a regulatory sandbox allowing companies to test AI systems for a limited time before entering the market. And an interesting approach that aims to enable experimental innovation within a framework of control, risks and supervision will aim to improve regulators' understanding of the new technologies. And so in this sort of trial and error phase where we're working through these sandboxes where there is no risk because it's not real, Spain has been one of the countries that has been pioneering, laying the ground of what could potentially become a pan-European AI sandbox. And with all these elements in mind, we have been working diligently in the OECD Global Parliamentary Network Group on artificial intelligence that we created very much with the impetus of the EU, the European Parliament, Eva, and many other members of Parliament, and of course from across OECD countries. We sensed that there was a need for a space to share initiatives and discuss the challenges that legislators face when grappling with AI and its implications. Some weeks ago, this group came together as part of our partnership with the European Parliament Research Service and also the Science and Technology Committee, STOA, and nearly 50 parliamentarians from 25 countries participated. We focused on innovation on AI legislation, and one of the things that came up was precisely the importance of assessing whether how we legislate is still suited, not for tomorrow's world, but already for the world that we're in today. And that was mentioned by one of the EU AI Act rapporteurs, Dragos Tudorache. That the time will come when we will discover that our instruments are no longer suitable. We need to anticipate not only the technology and the disruptions it will cause, but also the methods of legislation and regulation that are needed. Because of course, when we think rule of law, we think democratic principles, and we think about the practice of making policy, of making laws and regulations. And so this goes to the very heart of the discussion, I think, that you have so aptly put on the table in the last 2 days. Another element that emerged repeatedly is the need to anticipate the future in terms of standardization and interoperability. Again, when we're thinking about rule of law, do we all understand what we mean by certain concepts? And it's very important that at least we have agreement on definitions, on what is what. And there is currently a window of opportunity to promote the interoperability before standards are finalized and enacted. And this is something that the OECD is strongly encouraging, as it's easier to agree on the common baselines upstream. And then it may be that there will be a time and a period when there is some divergence in red lines later down the line. Of course, at an EU level, huge efforts are being made for there not to be divergence, for there to be convergence. But of course, the EU is not alone at a global level, and at the OECD, we're able to bring parties together. And just briefly, I wanted also to mention the fact that we had an extensive discussion with our rapporteurs, with Dragos and Brando Benifei, as legislators from different parts of the world are looking at the EU as a front runner in legislating on AI to inspire their own legislation. We also heard from countries that are implementing innovative approaches, such as Chile, that passed legislation modifying the Chilean constitution to enshrine neuro rights and to protect mental privacy. Now, this is a first. It's not been done anywhere else. Scientific and technological development shall be at the service of individuals and be carried out with respect for life and physical and mental integrity. The law, Chilean law, shall regulate these requirements, conditions, and restrictions for its use on individuals, and shall especially protect brain activity as well as the information derived therefrom. Polish MPs at national level shared their draft act on trade unions and AI and workplaces to protect workers in instances of automated management. It aims to guarantee the right to learn which performance standards are applied at their workplace, the parameters, the rules, the instructions, and the description of the process on which an algorithm is actually based. These are only some examples of the value of the exchanges in this space among parliamentarians for frank discussions, and how it helps policymakers keep up with the pace to try and enact those right policies and governance, make better decisions, and act now in a manner to preserve and protect that concept of the rule of law that was, of course, coined well before the advent of artificial intelligence, but needs itself to be recast for this new world. Thank you so much, Nicholas.
Thanks a lot, Anthony, for this great overview, and congratulations to OECD for the great work accomplished since even before 2019, since 16, 17, 2019 with the principles, and now with the Observatory, and even the Working Party on AI governance, and linking that up with the parliamentary network, exactly the kind of things that we need to build the norms, the metrics, the evidence. So congrats, and look forward to cooperating more with the OECD going forward. Finally, let me please invite on stage Mr. Michael Punk, Vice President for Global Public Policy at AWS, to deliver his opening remarks on behalf of AWS. Mr. Punk, the floor is yours, and thank you for being with us this afternoon in Brussels and this morning, probably on the other side of the Atlantic. Welcome.
Thanks, Nicolas, and good afternoon, everyone. AWS is pleased to co-host the 2022 edition of the Athens Roundtable on AI and the rule of law. I want to use the few minutes allotted to me today to share with you our perspective on responsible AI adoption. When we hear the term AI, it conjures ideas of things like driverless cars and drones. While those are important applications of AI, they don't tell the full story about how the technology is driving innovation in virtually every tech industry sector. From finance to farming, AWS works with customers in every industry vertical to help them leverage the power of cloud and AI to realize the benefits of digital transformation. Let me share just a couple of examples of the unexpected ways our customers are using AI. We don't often think of agriculture when we think about AI. With global population expected to reach 10 billion by 2050, we will need to double the output of the agriculture sector to meet the increase in demand. Farming is already taking up close to 40% of the world's land. Avoiding global famine will require us to make existing farmland much more productive. A customer of ours called OneSoil is using our AI to help address that challenge by creating tools that help farmers increase their crop yields while reducing environmental waste. OneSoil is used by over 200,000 farmers in 59 countries. They have analyzed 7 million fields in the United States and Europe, leading to a 20% improvement in farmers' resource optimization. AI is also helping to facilitate the transition to a green energy future. One of the biggest impediments to green energy adoption is effectively managing mixed-use energy grids. While all energy grids readily account for fluctuations in demand, renewable grids also contend with fluctuating supply because we can't control when the sun shines and the wind blows. A company called Octopus Energy is using our AI to help overcome these challenges. Octopus Energy provides renewable electricity to businesses and over 2 million households in the UK. Their software tracks personalized energy consumption habits through smart meters in homes. Their insights allow customers to run washing machines or charge electric vehicles at times of day when prices are cheaper and the grid is cleaner. In light of a shortage of tech skills, the cloud is a strategic advantage. The cloud is democratizing access to AI and putting it in the hands of developers. Organizers with developers can start to deploy AI ML without having direct access to expert AI ML practitioners. Access to the cloud means that these capabilities aren't just in the hands of experts or large corporations and governments, but also in the hands of small businesses and startups. The cloud is also playing a central role in making sure we reduce the carbon footprint of innovation. According to a recent study of 451 Research, for the average enterprise or public sector organization, moving computing workloads from on-premises data centers to the cloud would immediately reduce the carbon footprint associated with running IT workloads by nearly 80%, just from energy efficiency gains alone. That's a stunning statistic. Our commitment to help develop AI and machine learning is in both a sustainable and responsible way is integral to how we build AI and ML services, engage with customers, and innovate to build a more equitable future. And we're doing this in several ways. We are helping our customers transform responsible AI from theory into practice. As a customer-obsessed company, we focus on helping our customers untangle the complex questions that surround fairness, explainability, robustness, security, privacy, and governance. Just earlier this week, we launched our AWS Machine Learning University Responsible AI course, online and free for all. We take a people-centric approach. This starts with education and doing our part to build the next generation of developers and data scientists in machine learning with the AI and ML scholarship program and Amazon Machine Learning University. We're constantly innovating and iterating. We are committed to improving, refining, and expanding our approach to responsible AI. Responsible AI is an active area of research and development, and we are working to advance the science behind it with more than 400 scientific articles published just in 2001 alone. Finally, we take a holistic approach. For AWS, responsible AI is an integral part of the entire AI ML lifecycle, including design, development, deployment, and ongoing use. It is an iterative process that requires continuous testing and auditing for potential bias and accuracy. As artificial intelligence continues to grow and transform how we live and work, AWS is committed to looking around corners, helping our customers put responsible AI into practice, and spurring research and continued development in this area. I look forward to learning about the outcomes and recommendations of the discussions as part of this roundtable and translating our collective vision of responsible AI into practice together. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot, Michael, and thanks for your support to the Roundtable this year. It's much appreciated.